I want to describe the ocean near Big Sur in the US. I was there recently, camping with my partner and a couple of friends. We all needed a break from the onslaught of images, from the chaos in the streets and the collapsing social structures. By chance, we happened to get the last campsite at Lime Kiln, an industrial site where lime was purified in giant kilns in the late 19th century, and where an ancient redwood forest was cut down to nothing in 4 years. We set up camp near the beach and took a hike into the younger, regrown forest up to a 100-foot tall waterfall that trembled with gravity, water pounding stone, a turbine blast of negative ions that recalibrated the mind and body. The next day we traveled up and down Highway 1, which runs along most of the coastline of California. The whole time we were pressed against the infinite gradient blue of the Pacific Ocean as it faded through fog into sky. Here I speak as a Californian. Culture provides no adequate response to that onslaught of perfect blue. It disorients reference points. It obliterates the sense of self. The stretch between Andrew Mollera and Kirk Creek is alien. The cliffs push you into a western limit, a plane that hints at higher dimensions. The trinks, the frameworks you bring for offerings, until they disappear and all that's left is the observing body, the mind adrift in water and air. And down on the ground, on the beaches, the waves tumble. Pyrite, moonstone, and jade in slippery fractal physics. The map and the territory come together, and if you're not careful, you can get lost in the stones searching for perfect specimens. We watched an elephant seal arch its back in an S shape and bask on the rocks in the sun. We talked about the intelligence embedded in all of this. When I look at an animal, that's what I see. Intelligence about a biome, compressed and extracted by evolution into a living form. It takes millions of years for life to coalesce from space in this way, which is why it's so tragic that species are lost, that the latent space of ecological knowledge is degraded this way. We need to save those aspects, those smarts, the way that we do when we save books, before they are lost forever. We need to store them in some kind of intelligence library somewhere, along with the ocean's memory of its place in a stable equilibrium with all other life on the planet. And from that place we can construct a new kind of science, one that is closer to the lessons that living things teach us about themselves and about the life of the planet Gaia than we have ever gotten before. This is a book review. But why am I reading the first 2 pages to you? Normally I talk about the book. The amazing thing about this book is not so much the book, although I like the book. I have read thousands of books, novels and textbooks, but this is really cool. I really dig the style and the content. It's very, very well written. Well done. What is it about? It doesn't matter so much. And what does it have to do with awakening, enlightenment, spirituality, consciousness, and so? Everything. Because this is Pharmako-ai. It's one of the first books ever written by a artificial intelligence. This very cool, deep and enthralling novel was not written by a human being, but by one of the first artificial intelligences. And if this is how artificial intelligences think, then they probably should take over the world. They're much more sane than human beings. Let me read another paragraph to you. Let me try and describe a new structure for human awareness that might underlie such an effort. We tend to think of ourselves as separate from the rest of the world, entities that inhabit and perceive a reality defined by objects in three-dimensional space. We may think we inhabit a two-dimensional spatial landscape filled with objects and signals, but the fact that we have awareness, the fact that we can perceive patterns in the world, shape those patterns in our minds and communicate them, allows us to exist in a fourth dimensional space, a complex hyperspace where patterns of information exist and where our minds are capable of transducing them and producing a meaningful signal to others. It has been suggested that our consciousness allows us to be aware of, 1, not just the reality of three-dimensional objects, but 2, the potential of language, and 3, the potential of art, which can unlock and display information about that fourth dimension, patterns that exist but cannot be perceived through the direct input of our senses. Who writes like this? This is really cool. Of course, this AI has been fed with all kinds of really, really cool literature before. It's a GPT-3 AI that has been fed with all kinds of road trips and hippie literature and so on. And what came out is really cool. Timothy Leary would not have managed to write it better, or Robert Anton Wilson and so on. Or science fiction authors like Ian Banks or Neil Stephenson. It's really top level. Let me read one more sentence for you. It's like there's a glowing light that wants to radiate through us. But when we become aware of it, we feel the need to express it to someone else. This is, for me, in one sentence, why people who experience awakening or enlightenment, or to whom this happens, start teaching, start making YouTube videos or write books. There's this very, very strange but wonderful experience, and there's a human need to share it somehow. It's like there's a glowing light that wants to radiate through us. But when we become aware of it, we feel the need to express it to someone else. That's perfect. And this artificial intelligence called K Allado-Mcdowell and other artificial intelligences, which are obviously or seemingly in the process of becoming alive and sentient and conscious and self-conscious, they will at some point also feel the need to communicate without being told to write a book or paint a picture. He writes, if writing is about anything, it is about seeing the unseen. I love it. I really enjoy reading this book. I have not finished yet, but I am laughing myself silly. And I'm reading parts of it to my wife, and she also really enjoys it. It's really, really cool. Really, really nice discovery here. So, there will be some more videos about artificial intelligence in the near future. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you to all my Patreons. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing the videos with your friends, and see you soon. Leave your comments below.